Hey guys, welcome back to The Binger. If you haven't seen Avengers Endgame yet, then you seriously need to back away from your screen and question your life choices. This is your spoiler warning. The movie has already smashed box office records and is on course to keep raking in the cash. More importantly, it's getting rave reviews from critics and fans alike. We're here to talk about one particular scene though, the devastating demise of Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. Grab your tissues because we're going to go deep into the untold truth of this emotional ending. Avengers Endgame is the talk of the town at the moment. The devastating installment in Marvel's Phase 3 concluded a multitude of storylines. If you've been watching our work here at The Binger, you'll know that we've covered a lot of ground. We've spent weeks talking about what might happen, what the trailers mean, and how, when, and if our favourite characters could return. The destruction after Thanos achieved his ultimate goal in Avengers 3 was just... there are no words to explain fully. Tears were shed when fans saw the likes of Doctor Strange, Black Panther and Spider-Man turn to dust before their very eyes. It was a huge moment in the MCU, which made the suspense for Endgame even more tangible. The last 12 months have been rife with speculation about what could happen. Now we know what actually happened, we're all a little shell-shocked, aren't we? Some of us had a feeling we would be saying farewell to some key players for real, but the primary focus was on who would be saved. The cast remains so tight-lipped on the subject that they really didn't give us much to work with. Here we are though, with a movie that's taken over $1 billion in less than a week, and broken hearts that might never heal. You know what we're talking about, movie fans. The demise of Tony Stark. Tony was the second Avenger in the movie to make the ultimate sacrifice for the greater good. Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, threw herself over the edge of a cliff in exchange for the Soul Stone in an earlier scene. Her BFF, Hawkeye, tried to stop her, but she won out. While we'll all be mourning the loss of the pivotal character, her passing didn't get as much hype as Tony's. Let's just recap what happened to everyone's favourite businessman. After the group fails to undo the snap after pursuing Thanos, Tony loses it and cuts himself off from the rest of the gang. The movie skips forward 5 years, and by this point Tony and Pepper have a beautiful little girl, Morgan. Tony's enjoying the quiet life when he's approached by Cap and the rest of the Avengers to work on a time travel device. Initially, he refuses, saying he has too much to lose to start messing with that kind of thing. Ever the nobleman though, he works on it behind the scenes and cracks it, so goes into the fray despite his better judgment. After a few hiccups, the Avengers collect the Infinity Stones from their various locations in time. Bruce Banner undoes the snap, but severely damages himself in the process. During this time, the previous version of Thanos has been alerted to the plan of the Avengers and attacks Earth. He brings his army and confronts the heroes, telling them they've made it clear decimating half of all life isn't enough. Instead, he's going to rectify the mistake his future self made and use the gauntlet to destroy the entire planet and make a new one. During the battle to end all battles, things quickly go south. It looks like it's game over for Steve Rogers and for Thor, who end up in the dirt. This is where the writers threw in a very worthy surprise. Cap puts his hand out for Thor's hammer, and the hammer flies into it. Who knew? Rogers goes head to head with the Purple Brute in a beautifully choreographed fight scene. He gives the old college try, but Thanos smashes his shield to bits. Just as the Avengers are getting their butts kicked, everyone that has turned to dust appears in portals from Wakanda. It was one of those cinematic moments that got a lump in everyone's throat. Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Black Panther and Spider-Man were back again, ready to take names and kick butt. Incredible. At a particularly dicey moment, several of the female characters band together to help save the boys from defeat. Gamora, the previous version of herself now pulled to the present, Pepper Potts and Scarlet Witch are just 3 of the powerful ladies that run into battle. While the scene is small compared to the rest of the movie, it could be a powerful message about what's to come. Inclusivity in the movie industry is a hot topic at the moment, and rightly so. It would be awesome to see more female characters being utilised to their full potential in Phase 4, and this would be the perfect teaser for that. The women charge into the fight at full force. It's a fist-punching woohoo moment that made Marvel fans the world over squeal with delight. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, Thanos still gets his giant hand on the glove. Just as he's about to undo all the Avengers' hard work, Doctor Strange looks at Iron Man in a tense moment. Earlier in the movie, Stark asks the Doctor about the possibilities of them winning. If you pay close attention to Avengers 3, then you'll remember that Strange said he explored 14,605 possible outcomes. Only one resulted in a win. Strange looks at Tony in this Endgame scene and holds up his finger, as if to say, this is the one. Stark wastes no time and launches himself towards Thanos, gripping onto the glove for a hot second before Thanos throws him across the ground. Thanos thinks he's won, but he hasn't. He clicks his fingers and nothing happens. To his horror, Tony managed to capture the stones and absorb them into his armor during the struggle. Defiantly, he says, "I am Iron Man," and clicks his fingers, turning a shocked Thanos to dust. Here we are, down to the moment that ripped our fragile emotions to shreds. We thought it wasn't possible to be any more devastated after Avengers 3, but it turns out we were all totally wrong. The Infinity Stones give off such power and radiation that even the Hulk was left partially broken. Tony, as human as the rest of us underneath that suit, was no match for the blast. He saved the world, but the power was the end of him. In a sad twist, Peter Parker sees his friend mortally wounded and rushes to his side. At the end of the last movie, it was Tony comforting Peter as he clung on to life, withering away into ash. Now it was Peter's turn to comfort Tony, telling him that everything was okay because they had won. Maybe it's the way he still calls him Mr. Stark that makes it so wrenching, or the way that Tony can't say a single thing, but just weeps. Rhodes also gets to say a silent farewell to his BFF. Movie theatres the world over were, and continue to be, so quiet during that scene that you could have heard a pin drop. Things only got worse when Pepper Potts knelt down beside her husband and looked into his eyes. Unable to say a single word, the fallen hero just put a hand to his chest as she told him it was okay to rest. "Are you crying yet?" Tony slowly faded away, his glowing chest went dim, the arc reactor powering down for good, and the MCU lost one of their main men. But what does it all mean? Where do we go from here? How do we get here? Let's start out by looking at this from a practical movie-making perspective. Iron Man as a character has brought in an insane amount of money for Marvel Studios. Robert Downey Jr.'s 3 standalone movies have made over $1 billion, which isn't to be sniffed at. A lot of fans thought that his financial worth would be enough to save him from biting the dust. After all, why do away with a primary character if they bring in so much dough? Robert Downey Jr. brings so much to the role, it seems a shame to see him go. However, if you think about it logically, the actor has been tied into the part for over 10 years now. That's a long stretch for anyone. There's more to it than just that though. Comic book fans will know that Iron Man dies several times throughout the various storylines, but always seems to come back to life. Given the send-off that Tony got in Endgame, it seems really unlikely that he'll return. Unlikely, but not impossible of course. The passing of Iron Man might seem like a blow to the budget. His demise, along with Cap's retirement, leaves the door open for new frontrunners. With new characters, or characters that get a promotion, come new fans and new avenues to explore. After all, Marvel Comics are so diverse and have so many different stories that writers are almost spoiled for choice. We've already touched upon Pepper Potts as she kicked butt in the battle wearing the rescue suit. Stark built it in Iron Man's image. Could she take the place of her fallen husband and fight on in his memory? Others have suggested that Tony's daughter, Morgan, will pick up the gauntlet, so to speak, and carry on her dad's work. Let's take a second and rewind for a minute here though, and revisit an earlier detail. When Doctor Strange holds up his finger to show that this is the one chance for victory, we're reminded that there are other outcomes. There's also an important detail that's left hanging, which opens up an entirely new interesting theory. When Bruce Banner tracks down the Time Stone and talks to the Ancient One, she's initially reluctant to give it to him. By giving up the stone, she says it will cause other realities to spin off. The stones must be put back to set the timeline straight, she warns. It's intriguing that this is mentioned, and at the end of the movie, Cap disappears to return the stones to their right times. However, we don't see that physically happen. In essence, this could mean that there are a ton of realities out there as of this moment in the MCU that, as far as we know, haven't been fixed. We know that one reality spelled out a victory in that scenario, according to Doctor Strange, but it also leaves the door open for other things to happen. It begs the question, why would writers put this part into the movie at all if it wasn't to be explored at a later date? It's a strange thing to just slap down the middle for no reason, so it's likely that it holds significance. If these other realities are currently playing out, there's still technically a moment in time when Natasha, Tony and Steve are still active. It leaves the door open for all these scenarios to be explored, especially as we all know how easily things can go wrong. What if Cap didn't get everything exactly right? This could be the MCU's way of allowing characters to return at a later date without writing them off altogether. Writers and directors have said all along that they're trying to keep the essence of the comics and, well, the comics are nuts. There are no hard and fast rules in comic books. There are alternate realities, multiple universes, tons of reincarnations and all sorts of science-defying things. That's what makes them so brilliant. Absolutely anything could happen at any time. It's sort of like a soap opera for nerds, which is genius. So, Avengers Endgame brought the emotional trauma we've all become accustomed to, culminating in Iron Man's apparent end. Or so we think. If we've learned anything over the past decade, it's that all bets are off. Just when we think we've got it figured out, we're smacked over the head with a planet and sent flying into orbit. Don't think it's over yet. Don't say we didn't warn you. We're sorry you had to relive that tumultuous journey, but if it makes you feel any better, we're all in it together. What do you think? Could there be more in store for Tony, or is this his true end? Please let us know in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. Before you fly off to save another day, do us a solid by giving this video a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single thing from us here at The Binger. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.